So I recently wrote and published this book, Creativity in the Church. This is one of the hardback versions. I have it in hardback and soft cover available, but in this video I wanted to kind of talk through why I wrote this book and why I would absolutely love for you to pick up one of these if you can. This book has been designed as definitely more of a print heavy book. There are many graphic examples of work in here, especially relevant to the church. I go through things like hierarchy of design, typography, like different serifs and sans serif, things that I think would be extremely helpful for those that are trying to design in the church. But not only just design, I also have traditional means of artistic work. And so I talk a lot about the artist. For example, here's one of the chapters on traditional and new age art methods. So everything from etching, there's some sketched illustrations I did for a commission, collage and charcoal. But I also go through things like photography and how all of these different components and how they're so important for not only attracting a newer and younger audience, you know, depending on where you are demographically, geographically, but also nurturing the body, right? So the congregation. And so I've broken this book down into three main parts. Part one, that's the first three chapters. It's really geared towards pastors and church leaders, just explaining how important and vital creativity is to the Lord and the commands that he has, not only commands, but just the beauty that is creativity. And so chapter 2 is a full list of just scriptures. Chapter 1 kind of goes through what I would say is common issues in the church in terms of creativity. So things like stagnant churches, toxic churches, copycat churches, all things that I think creativity either has a hand in healing or in growing. The first three chapters as more foundation for why creativity is so important will be helpful, especially for those of you that feel like where you are in your church right now, you don't feel like there's a ton of creativity, you don't feel like there's a ton of creative outlets, or maybe you've been trying to get something going. Well, I definitely wrote this book for you to try to basically hand to your pastors and your church leaders. Have a conversation. That's all I want, is to have a conversation. It's not necessarily we have to start spending tons of money on a rebrand or something, but just getting an understanding for why creativity is vital and is important to the Lord, and everything from scripture references to kind of my thoughts about the passage and why they're so vital. And then we go into chapter 3, which is why creative works matter. And I basically have a couple of different conversations with church directors, creative directors at other churches. And I talk about how creativity shows us God's personality. It is a form of discipleship. It's a gift that God gives us. And it also is a method for stirring emotions, very similar to how different worship songs bring on a different kind of emotion if you think about it in that way. And I also talk about the aspects of the digital climate, social media, websites, YouTube, things like that. They're described not at length, but I definitely don't shy away from talking about them and how a lot of where we are right now in the world is just digital. And so obviously I did my best to kind of teeter back and forth between design and art. But if I could just summarize and just read to you briefly the back of the book tackles the issues that stunt creative endeavors, not only within the church, but for the creative Christian. Using scripture as a guide in this book, we'll discuss how creativity is vital to both individual and church growth. So individual being you, or the individual, and then church growth, the body at large. Separated into three parts, we look at why creative endeavors matter for the church, learn artistic disciplines and why they should be valued within the church, and then we're going to discover a blueprint for how to champion artists and designers within the church to glorify the Lord through beauty and excellence. And that's exactly what I want to get across in these three parts. And the very last chapter of the book was written by a wonderful friend, Edward Sun. He is an amazing and talented designer and educator, and also just has a wealth of knowledge on the scriptures, which is an encouragement to the creative Christian. So if that's something that interests you, I would absolutely love if you could grab a copy. Right now it's available on Amazon. I'm working diligently to get it available in actual shops. Of course, it is a printed book. You are going to get a physical book. Now, depending on whether you're watching this, if you're going to grab it before August 10th, 11th, 12th, the prices are actually reduced right now. So hardback is more expensive. It's just a lot more expensive to print because there's only premium paper that we're using. We're not going going to regular paper with the hardback, it is going to be that much more premium, slick, kind of museum glossy feel for all of the graphics that are in the book. If you want to check some of those out, of course, I've got pictures on the listing for the display and stuff like that. Obviously, the ebook is the least expensive, but then you don't have something that looks really nice chilling on your coffee table, and so that's kind of how we designed it. So let me know your thoughts if you want to hear more about it. If I didn't do a very clear job of explaining my own book, that's because I'm new to this, but I did write and publish it, so I'm excited about that. Please let me know if you grab one, comment down below so we can talk about it, and I will see you in the next video.